What is up, everybody? How's everybody doing?
Hello, everyone.
We are excited about this one. We've been waiting for this for a while. Immediately when we created this series, we knew we had to have Ali Motta on, right, babe?
Yes, we just had to find a time to get her on. She was one of the very first people that we wanted, we reached out to. We've just been waiting for our schedules and the stars to align.
And as Bob, her husband, always says, the best lawyer he knows is Ali Motta, and she's been doing it for over 20 years. She's a co-host on Defense Diaries, the podcast. And by the way, folks, put in Ali, put an exclamation point Ali in the chat, and you'll get the link to Defense Diaries Linktree and to their YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're checking out the pod and giving it 5 stars. But I just want to say, in addition to being a badass attorney, a badass co-host, she's just an awesome person. I was just talking to Shannon about this, and I think the last time I talked about this is when the person kept asking if it was the verdict. I was talking about how me and Shannon had like a legal thing that we kind of had to get taken care of. And go ahead, babe. Tell the story.
Well, I mean, it wasn't something that we did wrong.
No, not something that we needed to get legal advice for. Not something like Shannon didn't kill someone.
They robbed the bank.
We robbed the bank and we had it, but no, we had something. I mean, we had something come up where we needed advice, right, babe?
Right. We needed advice for custody types of things. And so we were just like desperate that day. And Jay was like, do you think we should text Bob and Ali? I was like, I guess, I felt bad like asking them. And pretty much like 5 minutes after we texted them, Ali was on the phone with me. And she was like, okay, tell me what's going on. And stayed on the phone with us until we felt like a million times better and walked us through everything that we needed to do and our options. And it was just like the most relieving phone call ever.
Yeah, it was really nice. She's awesome. So, without further ado, here she is, a woman who rocks, Ali Motta. Hey, Ali.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing good. And by the way, I forgot to mention, I'm rocking my Team Ali shirt. Babe, what shirt you got on?
I have the come back with a warrant.
And it's very prominent.
It's a good advertisement space. It's a good space to promote. Good space. So when we put the link tree in there, folks, is the merch, and they got some new merch, and it is fire. And I see Carly Fulham is in here, and she's always modeling it, and it makes me jealous, all the merch she has. So check it out, folks. They got a lot of good stuff on there. But babe, go ahead.
They have this saying on a hoodie, and I love the way it's spaced on the hoodie. So that's going to be my next purchase.
Oh, but babe, wait. Before I always forget to do this. Before you go forward, folks who are on Kick, show Ali, throw up the emojis, folks. If you are on Kick, there they are. There she is. Throw them up, folks. There's Ali, and there's the Team Ali emojis. We got them all over here. Nice. I exceeded the rate limit. I think I'm going to get blocked from my own channel on Kick, but there they are. The the Ali emojis, which is why we love our Kick.
What does that even mean? Like you exceeded your quota or whatever?
I basically spammed my own channel. Like they don't want like someone coming into my channel and just putting a million emojis in the chat, which I just did. So let me turn this off now because I keep forgetting to do that. But I'm sorry, babe.
I don't want to sound like Bob, like, I don't understand this modern world. But
we got an Ali general public voice right off the bat, folks. We know this is going to be a special interview here. Go ahead, babe.
Well, I always love to start with this question because I just find it so interesting. What were you like as a little girl, Ali?
Well, I was a competitive gymnast, so a lot of my time was actually like in the gym while the rest of my family was like, even in the summers, the rest of my family is like on the beach and I'm in the gym. But I had a lot of energy, so that was actually pretty good for me. I was a bit of a tomboy, um, and a troublemaker, I guess, if you ask my parents for sure.
Yeah, like what kind of trouble are you getting into?
Suspended from school, running
Oh,
away. Like I'd miss curfew, and then I'd be like, well, I got to run away.
so you,
I wouldn't go home.
what are you getting suspended for from school for? You're punching people out. What are you doing, Allie? What's going on?
Well, so we moved from like suburbanville, Pennsylvania into our basically our summer house at the Jersey Shore. Not the Jersey Shore everyone's used to. That's the North Jersey Shore. This is the South Jersey Shore, but so it's like a small town, like it kind of culture shock, and the high school was basically in the middle of the city, like with the casinos like a block away starting, and the beach and like the mall, and literally a tiny little block, one little small street across, there's a little store there, and you're out, so a lot of times I would cross over, and then you come back and get caught, and like eventually the school told my parents, like, she's, because technically the school was in Atlantic City, and I didn't live in Atlantic City. So everybody who didn't live in Atlantic City, I don't know, they were like, your kid, they basically kicked me out, or was like, you're going to have to pay for your kid. She's not an Atlantic City resident. She's not coming to school. I was truant all the time. So I went to a Catholic school. And I guess I was just somewhat defiant. And asked more questions than I should, and wasn't willing to accept everything I should. So, but I ultimately they like booted me out of there. So, that kind of thing.
Well, that kind of leads. So asking questions you shouldn't, and not accepting like the status quo, kind of leads to my question. My question, which is, what made you want to become an attorney?
So it's crazy because like in, I don't know if it was third grade or something, I did like this all about me book, and in that I actually said that I wanted to be a spokesperson for like gymnastics, or I might have mentioned being in a band, and then I said, but those are really just dreams. What I really want to do is be a lawyer. So I have no idea why at that age I wanted to be a lawyer, but as I, in my conscious self, always wanted to go to give voice to the voiceless and power to the powerless. And, I always tell people now, like, as long as you don't go into the law with that as your goal, then okay. But otherwise you're in for a rude awakening and a lot of disappointment.
And you mentioned I didn't even have this as prepared, but you mentioned being a rock star. I'm curious, Ali, give us your top three band. We know you're a big music fan, right?
Right.
What would you say? I mean, it's probably gonna be hard for you because it's hard for music. Top three bands. What is your, or right now or all time? Whatever you want to
Right. So
throw
I'd
out
say
there.
My Morning Jacket, which is a small band that a lot of people wouldn't know. Pearl Jam. And, then I can't, I don't know that I can necessarily pick a band. It's like funk. It's just a sound, and it can come from anywhere, and it doesn't matter. And I didn't even realize how much I liked it until I got older. Cause when I was younger, I was like, I don't want to go see music I don't already know. I'm like, I just want to go see music I know. And then I'm like, wait, there's nobody singing. If there's nobody singing, I don't want to go. And then my brother-in-law, Bob's sister's husband, he was in like a local funk band in Chicago, and there was no singing, it was all music, and I was like, I freaking love this. It's like I used to always say the only thing I would see where I didn't already know it was the blues, because like the blues, it's the same kind of thing, like you can feel it, you don't need to know the lyrics. And then I found funk. So anything along those lines.
Very cool. Go ahead, babe.
You were on your question, weren't you?
No, I did my question
I don't want to steal your question.
about becoming an attorney. You're next, babe. I did the.
Oh, okay. Um,
Yeah,
yes,
this
you're
person
right.
here actually knows My Morning Jacket, so which is unusual. So that's great. Oh, and then you've got Karen, who's loves the Tower of Power. Nice. She's a funk girl too. All right. I
There
love
we
P
go.
Funk and PJ. A lot of people. Bob and I, when like years ago, I mean, like we were in law school years ago. We were like, there should be like a dating app or like a thing on like where you just plug in your music likes and that's how they like pair you with someone because it's like sort of like speaks to your innate being. Like you can't fake it. It's not like
Mhm.
you're trying to say something to put on airs, you're trying to do this. And we always thought that would be like an amazing way for people to actually connect. And we had our suspicion that it would be sort of more of a genuine connection just because it's like whatever feels good to you, this feels good to your soul. Because most people think, music speaks to their soul. Like, and you're not going to go on one of those apps if you've got no connection to music. Like, yeah, music, it's on the radio. So that's what we felt. And then as we got more in the music scene, it definitely panned out for us, not romantically, obviously, but in all the friendships that we've made. Like I have more friends, almost all of my friends, actually all of my friends are friends that I have met through music. So I don't like have anyone local that I like go and hang out and do stuff with. My friends are that's sort of the bad part of it because My Morning Jacket's a touring band and we've got a lot of friends from that crew. And then like our funk music, when you're talking like the small actual like current funk community, that's why we do Jazz Fest because that's all the funk is there at that time off of outside of it. So like all our friends again are from our all over people that go and do that and they do jam crews. So it definitely really is a way to connect with people that you might not like. I don't even know if as we speak now there is something like that you just connect based on your music likes.
I mean, it's $1 million deal. I mean, my parents are
It's patented,
deadheads.
guys, patented.
You got it. You heard it here. My
You're
parents
right.
are deadheads, and they used to like go around to all the concerts, and I mean they were doing the thing where they would before the internet they were mailing tapes to each other of different concerts, like to each other and their friends, just like different versions. Like so, it's really
Right.
a great idea. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, babe.
I was going to ask. So, but now I'm curious. When you were in third grade and you said I would be a rock star if you could, what did you envision that as? Did you want to be a singer? Did you want to play the guitar?
I think I might have said that I wanted to be a singer. I can just remember when I was younger, like I used to write songs like in the ocean, like playing in the beach and like writing songs in the ocean, So I know for sure it mentioned wanting to be like a spokesperson for like if the Olympics is on and you're talking about everything going on.
Mhm.
And I feel like I also mentioned something about being a singer or something along those lines. But that's what I would suspect because I didn't play an instrument. So
Gotcha.
I was too busy gymnasticsing.
So, oh, somebody's hitting on you in the chat. Name Defense Diaries podcast.
Who is the hottie?
No, he said that like earlier. I mentioned the thing, and he was like, "Oh, there's some smoke show on Jay's thing tonight." And at first I like turned around and like gave him a look, and then I was like, "Oh wait, he means me."
Excuse me, sir.
Right.
Um, I wanted to ask you about, and Bob's told this story a little bit on one of the episodes of the pod, but I want to hear it from your perspective. How was it, and what was it like when you guys first started your firm?
Well, so when we first started our firm, my dad was like, he was big on like, you guys should just start a firm and we've got to find like a person to be that knows like what they're doing, like someone with experience. So we're gonna like put an ad out and we're gonna do this. And my dad actually knew this guy that came in with us. And at first I applied. So in Philadelphia, there's a lot of there's certain reasons why the public defender's office has a conflict. And it's like if there's two defendants, co-defendants at the same thing, or whatever the reason. And the bigger the city, the more likely it is that they've got conflicts. So I applied to be, basically like an appointed lawyer there on like misdemeanors and felonies. And I think I probably started with misdemeanors. And, so we, even back then, like it's not a lot of working together, you know. So a lot of people are like, oh, it must be hard working with your spouse. It's like, I'm in my courthouse doing my shit, he's in his courthouse doing his shit, we're in our separate offices doing our shit, you know. But trials are extremely difficult. Now that is where it's like really hard to do with your spouse. But so it was like, you know, a struggle at first, and then the thing that the older lawyer that came in as the third partner, he focused on personal injury law, and you know, did a lot of that. So we did some of that as well. You know, so it was it was definitely, um, you know, like a learning curve. I would ultimately, I would call other lawyers and like just kind of drop a common name and be like, you know, I wouldn't say John Smith. That sounds stupid and fake, but whatever the name would be, you know, suggest that I give you a call. I'm, you know, a new lawyer in the area. Do you know how to blah blah blah? You know,
That's
because
so
the
smart.
one thing you don't learn in law school is like how to actually do the things. You could learn how to think and what concepts are, but like, all right, where do I go now to like file this thing, and what do I need with it? And or certain things like that. So we were just like figuring out as we went along, but we did pretty good at it.
Well, speaking of that, kind of leads to a question we have from a patron, Debbie Schultz, and this is like, as you've done your career over the 20 plus years, do you have any cases? This is from Debbie Schultz. Do you have any cases that haunt you, or like you can't stop thinking about, where you feeling like you could have done more, or there was something that couldn't be done, or and are there any cases you're particularly proud of, which she puts? Although I'm sure there are many of those.
Yeah. So, you know, when we first started in Philadelphia, like right off the bat, there was a guy that apparently was going like law firm to law firm, begging people to help with his father, who I don't even think he ever met because his dad was in prison by the time he was born. And it was a murder case that they were looking for like post conviction work on. So of course that's exactly why we went to law school, you know, like this is exactly what I do when I help someone who's innocent, what, and someone who doesn't have a voice and doesn't have any power, who was like bamboozled through the system, you know, no matter what the case may be, guilty or innocent. I mean, it was a drug case. The kid was, oh no, it wasn't. It was a felony murder case. So, these guys were going to rob a store, and he, you know, was hanging out with them earlier and knew they were like up to something or planning something, but not right that minute. And then they get down to the store, and when they walk in, they've got like their hoods up and they're got this look, and he's like, oh shit, they're doing that thing that they were just like sort of referencing before, whatever they were talking about now. And he's like, it ain't cool, I'm out. And he left. And then at trial, they he basically testifies to that, and the judge decides, even though it wasn't the prosecution's theory of the case was that from a block and a half away in the middle of Philadelphia, he's supposed to whistle. I don't even know how that would have, but he decided what his role was in the conspiracy, in the plan to do this robbery, was to go in and say whether it was clear or not. So by him saying it's not cool, I'm out, he said he did his job. And then the judge said in sentencing that he thought he was the most minimal person, had the most minimal involvement, but there was mandatory sentencing. So he got sentenced to life. So without the possibility of parole. So we took on that case, and it did like a lot of work for him and moved mountains that ultimately are not what led to him getting out necessarily. It was more the change in the law that you can't put a minor, you can't give them life without the possibility of parole. You've got to give them a definite sentence,
Mm-hmm.
and the opportunity to parole out. But he just got out this year. So that one I can be done thinking about. Um, and then we've got a, um, there are a lot that I'm, you know, I would say one of the ones that I feel the best about, and I may have talked about it before, but we had this case where this guy would, and he's, Hispanic. And the only reason I mention race is because it's really relevant to the criminal justice system. Because, like, if I'm talking to the family of a black male, especially, and women as well, but a black male versus a white male, I'm obviously talking about what a disadvantage they are at in a jury trial. And obviously the issues that are relevant to them if they get pulled over. Like, even just today, I had this guy call, and he was like, we were at this event, there was a shootout, I got in my car, I'm trying to speed away from getting shot out, this cop jumps out of nowhere, so I like move my car up, but I go, and that he eventually got arrested for aggravated assault for trying to run that police officer over. So at first I thought he was like calling about that, and I was like, this is crazy. This is going to be great, but he had already pled guilty, but he wanted it off his record because he was concerned about when he gets pulled over. He's already starting with, he's a black male. Now it says he's got aggravated assault against a police officer. He's like going to be 10 times more in fear, and probably rightly so, anytime he gets pulled over, gets stopped by a cop. So I kind of told him, and he was like, he thought his lawyer was full of shit because he filed his appeal late, and that he was just telling him to give up because of that. But I said, look, if you appeal this and you go back, because he got probation, but he's got this on his record, right? If you appeal this, and it wins, which, by the way, you're throwing probably money away on this appeal, and it's very hard to undo a guilty plea. But even if you win, then they're going to start all over again. And what is the reduced charge they can give you? That's not, it's still going to be some sort of violent offense against a cop, no matter what they lower it to, even if, like, it's, and you're not gonna win that. So I think so. I was kind of starting with why I was saying, I was like, why did I get into this story? But anyway, I got into that just to express, like, it is relevant in the criminal justice system what the race is. So it was like Hispanic guy, and in Aurora, the town next to us, it's like primarily Mexican. I mean, there's a huge Hispanic population. So and almost, so he is, you know, and it's almost anyone that you're like, unless you're in the book club, there's a good chance that you're socializing with someone who's, gotten in some like trouble or, whatever, with the cops one way or another. But he gets picked up by this guy, and then he was like, look, I need you to come. He doesn't know why at first. Like, do you want to just hang? Sure. All right, I need you to come with me to do this thing. And he shows up there, and they're like preparing for a drug deal. And then which he didn't know was going to happen, and he didn't want to be a part of. And then he sees an undercover cop that he knows is an undercover cop because, like, a friend of his or a brother, like somebody, this guy was the arresting officer on. So he doesn't go back in and say, hey guys, that's a fucking undercover cop, don't do shit. He just tries to get out of there. And he starts calling his wife. He's like, can you come pick me up? Like, and then he's trying to leave, and like, Bob and I are preparing for, trial, and we're rewatching like the surveillance tape that the cops had, and you can see our guy like look at them, and he said, I saw them out there. He told me that I saw them. I knew they were out there. I was not in any way, shape, or form trying to be involved in this thing at all. So you see him like look at them, and like, I was like, I paused it, and I was like, Bob, check this out. This is like huge. And we argued to the jury, like, look, he clearly saw them there. You can see he saw them there. He didn't go in, just like I was saying, no, he didn't go in and tell them, don't do this. He didn't try to help them. He was not a part of this. He was trying to leave, and of course you can't get in. We put the wife on, and all we could get in, because you can't get in what he said to her, right? Because that's hearsay, that he called her. And what did she do after he tried to call her? And then she was trying to say, I was going to ask my boss if I could leave, which she can't say, but I think we're able to get in. What was your intent after you talked to him? I wanted to leave, to go get him, but without any real explanation why. And he didn't take the stand, so it was, it is hard to win like a jury trial. And I think Bob and I have a really, really insanely good record. So he got not guilty on that. And we thought that, and then like he had a life and kids and, and all of that. So that was one that I, feel really good about. But there really is, a ton of them. And then there's a ton of them that I don't like feel good about. But as far as a bad one that I can think of, there was like a what would be called a date rape situation where we honestly wholeheartedly, like, the situation was that the woman just didn't remember in the morning but woke up in bed with this guy, so she testified that she wasn't too drunk. She just started not feeling well later in the evening and laid down and just has no memory of what happened. But he woke up in the bed with her, and she was sore, and his version was like she was all in, and like she, like, all of this stuff. And then he took the stand, because it's hard to put on a defense of consent without him getting on the stand to say she consented, right? And we probably could have gone based off of what she said and maybe what some other people said. I mean, maybe it was possible we could have won without putting him on. And that's where it's like the rub, because they found him guilty. And the reason they did is he came off like a total asshole on the stand. Like, he said something like, she's not even that good looking, like,
Oof.
I don't know. It was just like, I can't remember what she said, but we asked the jurors afterwards, and like, he was a fucking jerk, like he sunk his own ship. So that was one where I really didn't think he was guilty. Like, I think that either they were both, like, if it was an intoxication thing, that they were both too intoxicated to know that the other was too intoxicated, that, like, you don't stay in the bed when you're raping somebody, and like wake up with them in the morning and drive them home, like he took her home. And then there was like this phone call from her phone to his phone in the middle, like right around the time he's saying that they went to bed, where he says he asked her to call him to find his phone. He couldn't find his phone. So that was like to show she's alert, she's awake, you know what I mean? So that one I really did feel badly about. And I don't, I not necessarily because of anything that we did, although maybe we could have gotten around it without him testifying. But he flipped the switch. Like, he didn't follow anything that we said. He said a bunch of shit he had never said to us before. It was like, what the hell is happening? Which is a lot of the reason why people don't want to put people on the stand. Lawyers don't want to put their clients on the stand, because you rub the jury the wrong way, and they always start coming out of left field with shit you didn't hear before. Like, I don't know, people get nervous and they decide they can say something better. Wait, maybe, and then they just go off. I'd say off script, but I just mean from anything they'd said before.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, that's why it's so dangerous to put them on the stand, even though we know jurors really want to hear from people.
Right. Go ahead, babe.
I'm just thinking about like how terrifying that moment is when you are have your client on the stand, because there's only so much you can do at that point in time.
Right.
No matter how much you've prepped them. What do you find to be like the most nerve-wracking part of court? Obviously, like before deliberation.
I would say for sure, putting your client on the stand. Absolutely. And then nerve-wracking during it, I would say that's, like primarily what's nerve-wracking. And then for me, I am like kind of all over the place, so I can get my shit disorganized. So that's definitely like I try to put like binders together, but then I'll start like moving stuff around. So that's the most nerve-wracking for me because I know it comes off bad to the jury. Like she seems like she's a little like frantic, you know. Um and so I'd say for me like it's that aspect of things, like keeping my space and stuff like clear and stuff organized so I always know where something is at.
So I'm curious. We got into you being a lawyer, and now kind of you're transitioning. Now you're a co-host on a podcast, and now you're doing your YouTube channel. Which, by the way, we've been putting the links in there. Follow the YouTube channel. You're not going to get better analysis. I mean, they did yesterday the Delphi stream, and just all the streams they do. They're crushing it. So make sure you're following. It's right in there. The YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Have the notifications on, because when crazy shit like yesterday goes on with Delphi, you want to make sure you have the notifications on that they're going live. You're going to miss it. But I'm just curious. So you're still practicing, right?
Yeah.
How are Allie? How are you doing this? You got a law firm that and you got a podcast and a YouTube channel. How the
and
hell?
2 kids at home.
How are you doing this? Yeah.
Well, Bob carries obviously all the weight almost on the podcast side, so that he makes it easy where I can just come in, sit down, and like go, so that I'm not having to do, and I still do like the research as far as like reading stuff and, like, and I wish we could do the Allen case sort of different, like, but to do, because when we started, we had like read in a certain amount of like the police reports and what we're going to do. And like, and then you get to a point where it's like, well, now we're just sort of going through it. Cause I definitely don't have the time to put in, much research beforehand. So without Bob, I don't think, that I would be able to, because yes, I read everything, but he, we don't write a script, we just kind of talk about what we're going to say and what we're going to do. And then we sometimes are researching like right there, something comes up and I'm like, all right, wait, let me just confirm this. And I go in through the, cause like for Avery, we've got all the trial transcripts, all the, so I'll cross reference with that and be like, all right, what was said, or double check something. And a lot of times, like, I tend to work late, like I'll work really late, and Bob will be the one to get up in the morning and get the kids out to school, but now as Bob's getting like more busy, I'll try to do that when he needs it, but so I mean, Bob's definitely, very helpful in all things that are not the practice of law right now.
Right.
But for example, I went to Vegas for one of our good friends' birthday, and I'm like, I've got Zoom court, and he got on Zoom court for me. So as long, like, he'll do that, like pop into something to appear from that aspect. But other than that, I'm doing, all the law stuff.
And I know, Bob says you're not, you don't like social media. You're generally, you're not a fan of it. But from what I said, you're liking the YouTube. What are you thinking about the YouTube with the channel?
No,
you don't like it?
Should I say I like it?
I thought Bob said that you were enjoying it.
Like, he is saying that, and he was like, because afterwards, like, I got on and like I'm sharing it and I'm posting about it, but I'm just trying to be helpful, But he knows, like, I'd much prefer just being audio, because I don't want to have to worry about what I look like, and then, like that's like just a whole other level of like stress, So I definitely do not, he is wrong. I much prefer I much prefer podcasting to YouTubing, but I mean, I want it to be successful, because that helps us, he wants me to say us and not him, be successful. So I'm happy to do it, although it stresses me out a lot.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Bob was wrong. Don't listen to Bob. Listen to Allie. But go ahead, babe.
The chat is all saying like, you always look beautiful too. And I know, like, you can hear that in the chat, but it doesn't really take the stress away of like, oh my gosh, going
Right.
on
And it was the same way when I was on, and I probably said this here before or somewhere before, but when we handled the case in Omaha, the Garcia case, and it was like the TV, the people were just like always there. And I couldn't say, the news on purpose would pick the worst fucking picture of me like making a face or like doing something, and that would be plastered all over the freaking newspaper. And I kept saying, like, I need to focus on this, and I don't want to like always be stressing about like what I look like. And then one time when we got out, I wasn't going to stop for like the whole press conference, all the people there. And I get in the elevator. And then that night on the news, they're like an angry Alison Motta storms onto the elevator and leaves, and then like, so that just stressed me out too. And, it's an unfortunate curse. I think many women and probably men as well, go through as far as, just not wanting to be out there that much or,
definitely in that case, and maybe part of being, I mean, I'm from that part of the country. I'm from Kansas. I know how people in Nebraska think, I think. But I just listening to that, I noticed so many little nuances of that you're treated differently in the courtroom. You were treated differently in the courtroom than basically everybody else because everybody else was male. Am I reading into that, or do you think that did you feel that too?
Well, I definitely felt that. And in almost all cases, the state tries to have it's going to be two, a co-counsel. They try to have a male and a female. And, defense attorneys, they don't often have a co-counsel because that's two lawyers working, like that's double, like somebody could be billing and doing something else. Bob and I have always done our trials together, not because we wanted to, but because we always felt it was important to, as far as relating to a jury. And I think that's probably why they do it as well, because you've got people who are going to be responsive just based on sex, maybe, to one more than the other.
Mhm.
And then you've got different personality types, especially Bob seems much calm next to me, at the thing. But I think in that case, like they definitely, there's certain cases when children are involved and sex offenses where sort of having a woman attorney does, at least the thought in the world is, helps to have a woman lawyer. So I
Mhm.
do think having like an aggressive, outspoken, you know, basically lead counsel, because Bob and I, like there was no lead and second chair, where there's usually like a very evident second chair, and oftentimes when I, I I'm trying to think back to if I've ever done a trial where the lead counsel for the state or the government was a woman as opposed to the second chair,
Mhm.
so I do think that I was you know treated differently because Bob and I are already, I mean, definitely me, like I'm just, you know, I really am kind of like a pit bull, and I'm not going to back down, and I speak up. And, so that coming from a woman, even if there's another woman in the courtroom is, not perceived well and not taken well. And I think, the further probably in the middle of the country you go, the more that's rubbing people the wrong way, And I was also the one that was doing most of like the legal filings and like speaking on like the law, and had just won a
Mhm.
motion to kick like their evidence out, and was like in their face about things all the time as well. So I definitely think it played it played a role for sure.
Uh, I have a question here, a little off of what we, a little different question here from Carly Fulham. We love Carly. She asks from our, she's our patron, if there is a famous true crime case or trial that has interested you the most, or if you followed, such as John Bonet, OJ, Casey Anthony. Has there been any, case that maybe you didn't cover like for the pod, but that like you were just really interested in?
Yeah, so Casey Anthony was the one with the daughter, right? I
Mhm.
followed that. I did follow that. And then I followed the one where the girl drove across country and like was charged with killing her boyfriend at the time.
Jody Arias.
That one. I followed that one a
Mhm.
lot too. Um, and I remember back then, like, I have the worst memory. So, like, I can't even necessarily remember how I felt, but I do remember there were a lot of things that I had sort of taken issue with. And then the other one where the guy Scott Peterson killed his
Mhm.
wife. I don't, that one definitely has issues for me all
Yeah.
over the place. Like, um, so, and I never follow as before this. I almost never followed any of the cases. Like it just I don't have time for that. It was just not like a thing, but it definitely was a thing with Jodi Arias and the Scott Peterson thing. I think I kind of more took an interest in after the fact. Um,
Mhm.
so now I definitely try to stay on top of that stuff more often, but I don't as much as Bob does. And then I get information from him, but like uh, on the Delphi case, I'm reading all the pleadings when we get them, so that I'm staying up to speed with. But if I wouldn't know the lawyers' names. Like Bob's like this lawyer this and this lawyer that, and I'm just like, so what was that guy's name again, Bob? Like which lawyer through? Like I'm not invested in that sense, but I'm always staying on top of what's happening from a legal perspective.
Go ahead, baby. Go
Hi,
on.
Carly.
um, well, we have another patron question. Let's see. Oh, well, we have another patron question about which I read about this online a little bit. And it's from Debbie Schultz again. She had two, but she says, I appreciate both your and Bob's passion for doing what's just. Can you expand on your Jacktivist Foundation, how that came about, what it supports, and how one could support it?
So with my morning jacket, that we, again, being a touring band, we had such a large group of friends, and everybody always, because you'd always go to a bar. We'd meet up at a bar. We'd spend a lot of money. So my friend and I were just like, we could like pool our resources. Like at first, we were hoping to be more active, and I think it was. I don't know. I'm sure it was most assuredly after some sort of horrific, black guy gets killed by the cops type of thing, like outrage over society wanting to be like a thing for change.
Mhm.
So when we first started it, we expected it to be more along those lines, like, working towards change in society type of thing. But, both of us, it was me and a friend of mine that started it, and she's a single mother. We both work a lot, and but it ultimately ended up being that when we'd go to a concert, I would call different bars and negotiate like an amount that they would then donate actually to. There was a couple times that we picked the spot, like what we wanted, which was hard because I don't trust like big companies, like, oh, we're just going to give it to the Red
Right,
Cross. We're just gonna, like, how's that getting anywhere? So like one
right.
time we picked like shelters, animal shelters, but small ones where we actually gave them the money, you know. But other than that, what we did is would just turn the money over to the foundation that the band itself was using for their fundraising. I mean, for their support, and stuff like that. But we did also do some petition signing, like for LGBTQ rights in Louisiana, which is, where I'm sorry, Kentucky, where the band is from. So we did some like gathering cans and food for the homeless. I think we did like a socks thing for the homeless at the Colorado show. But primarily that was like the other thing that we did, other than like coordinating some of that, was just we're already doing this thing where we're all together somewhere spending money, and it was kind of coordinating that and negotiating ahead of time for them to give, like, I can't remember, 15%, 20% of what we spent would go, go back for the charities and whatever charities the band had chose to support. And we're not really doing anything with that anymore. As of I think since COVID, we never sort of got back into the swing once bands started going on the road again.
Uh,
For asking.
so I have a question that I just kind of thought of. We know the Defense Diaries podcast YouTube channel. You guys are taking over the world. It's going to be sooner rather than later. Are you going to be okay when that happens? And it's just are you going to be able to just go full time with that? Or are you always going to want to be practicing law or being a lawyer as part?
At one point in my life, I probably would have said I'm always going to do it, and I always thought if we, hit the lottery and had all these millions of dollars, that I would still want to do some sort of, free work for people in inner cities to help people. But I'm burnt out. It's really hard for criminal defense attorneys. We are, not only it's not only the public view, but that carries over in the courtroom. And sometimes, the judges are going to believe the state over the defense all the time. And nothing drives me crazier when I see with my own eyes the corruption, the bad judgment, the, tunnel vision, the racism, not outright, but just how different people are treated differently, and that they've got evidence right in front of them that speaks to something different and refuse to do it, and forcing witnesses to testify, and the means to the ends doesn't matter, but I'm the one the judge is gonna, let me see what does the state say about this? State, do you agree that, I just had a motion, recently where I was making some argument based on the facts, and she says to the state, do you agree with the premise that she said that X, Y, and Z? And she was like, no, not exactly. And I'm like, what a crock of shit, And it's we have to prove ourselves. And I think I probably have told this story. I don't know, I know our fans, cross over a lot, but we had this, one case where the judge was screaming and yelling at me that I'm trying to tell him this cop who he's known for 20 years is a liar, and he's not letting me put this evidence on. And then he's like, if you want to go down this road, you're going to do this. If you don't prove to me that this is true, I'm reporting you to the ARDC. You're in big trouble. Well, which is, I'm never supposed to have to prove anything, right? I'm the defendant's lawyer.
Right.
But we were able to prove it to him. And at the end, he was like, you're a credit to the defense bar, and thank you so much for all you do. But his first instinct is, I'm full of shit, and I'm just, talking out my ass. And that's what defense attorneys do. So I don't think I would have any trouble walking away at this point, but I also would be absolutely there. If a call such as Shannon's and yours from a friend, or a friend's friend in need, or if somebody I something horror, some extreme injustice happened, I can imagine myself, being fine, I'll help, but I would close shop and walk away from the law other than that.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. So get on the podcast and give it 5 stars. Get on the YouTube and get Allie the hell out of there. She's tired of it, folks. She's tired of it. Get 5 stars on the podcast. Tell a friend, a friend's friend. Tell your family. Follow the YouTube. Become a member on the YouTube. Do it all, folks. Help Ellie out. Come on. She's worked hard enough. She's dealing with Bob. She's dealing with all this stuff. Bob's falling asleep. He's missing court TV. I mean, she's doing enough, folks. Let's support the Defense Diaries podcast. Come on. I can't believe. Holy shit! It's been an hour already. Can you believe it, babe?
No,
I cannot
I hope
believe.
I'm not boring the shit out of your.
Oh no, Allie!
not.
Everyone in the freaking chat is like, "You're amazing." You are not boring anyone. This is amazing. So. I don't know, babe. Did you have any final
No, just
thoughts?
that everybody feels the same way as us. Allie texted Jay and I and was like, "Are you sure? Like, you really want me on? Like, I'm pretty boring. Like, there's not really anything about me." But everybody in the chat agrees with us. Like, we just want to hear about you because we are really, really invested in the things that you have brought to us. Like, you have really changed a lot of minds. You and Bob have really changed a lot of minds about people about the criminal defense system in general. We've had so many comments on our show about that you guys have done that for them. And so it's just amazing what you've done. And everybody here agrees with me.
Yeah, seriously, the amount of times we have seen folks say like, I would never like listen to a defense attorney. I thought they were sleaze, and I always thought, and then they're like, wait, after hearing the pod, and after hearing you guys on our show, or just on, whatever you're on, they're like, oh wait, maybe it's the Constitution, and they're doing their job, and there's a reason, because if they're not following that, then people just kicking down your door and doing whatever they want. So like, we really, I mean, it's a big deal what you guys are doing, and we all appreciate it. I mean, I seriously, I cannot believe this has been an hour. Again, if you're looking for a woman who rocks, Ali Motta just crushes it all the way. Ali, any final thoughts, or what's going on with the pot? Go ahead.
Just like as far as changing people's perspective, I think that there's been a lot in like things that have happened in society recently that's also opened people's eyes to the fact that you really, you can't trust the cops like you thought you could, and you can't even trust state's attorneys and prosecutors like you thought you could, so and that's and that's why being a defense attorney, and I know we didn't really talk about like specifically being a woman. Like when I first started, when I was young and in Philadelphia, people tend to underestimate me, and I used to like kind of play into that and let them do that, and then I would like just come out of nowhere and like just be like boom, and I'm kicking their ass, but their first instinct is, oh, here comes this little girl. I remember like my very first like one of the very first times that I'm going up in court in Philadelphia, where and Philadelphia, if the state shows up and they don't have their like witnesses ready to go, they can dismiss it right then and there. Like that's it. I think it might have been our second court date, and you're never getting past two where they don't have like their cops there ready to go. So I always wait and make sure they have their shit ready to go before I say, because I was probably wanted a continuance that day. I was going to say I'm not ready to go to trial, but I asked the state's attorney, are you guys ready? We're answering ready. So your witnesses are here. Yes, they're here. So then we step up, and I tell the judge I want to continue it, because he's already told me they're there. And then afterwards, I think I asked somebody, I'm like, I wanted to talk to the cop. I had a question. They weren't fucking there, and I'm like, this motherfucker, like that's the last time, somebody like tricks me. I'm going to double check all your asses, So, and then, so there was definitely some, you're underestimated and stuff like that. But like I said, I was able to sort of use that to my advantage to be like, oh, I'm just this innocent little girl that doesn't know anything. And then, come at them and just
rip their
like,
face
oh,
off.
Right.
Oh, that's amazing. Really. Babe is beaming. She's fangirling very hard. I can see it. As with most folks and all the folks in the chat. Actually, I just saw it. Tom McComas is in here. Everyone wants to shit on defense attorneys until they need one. And that reminds me, folks, when I end this stream, it's going to take you in the portal to Feral Friday. Steve, Dan, Todd, Jessica, the investigators. So when you go in the portal, just make sure to like it and get it on, in the algorithm, which is why you got to give 5 stars to the Defense Diaries podcast, the Investigators podcast too. Like their channel, because that their channel is going to be, Bob and Allie are going to be bringing you like legit content, folks. So we've been putting the link in there. Just facts.
As is Feral Fridays and you guys, and we're starting like some sort of power thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems like we should, get everyone together and set something up. So maybe one day we'll do that. Who knows? But I think, did we get everything, babe? Did we get all the questions? I feel like we got all
I
the questions.
think so. I mean, we could obviously chit chat for so much longer, but
Well, seriously, Ellie, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me.
Of
I
course.
appreciate everything all you guys have, your comments over there in the fan world, I guess. The viewing world, maybe that's better.
Yeah, all our viewers.
Jay fans.
We love you guys. We love Defense Diaries. Check out the pod. Give it 5 stars. Check out the YouTube. And I think that's it. I don't have to welcome you to. I've been welcoming folks at the end to J-Bo Nation, but you guys have been in J-Bo Nation since we've started, essentially. So thank you for being a part of it. We love you guys.
Happy to. We love you guys as well.
All right. Good night, everyone. Goodbye. We'll see you at Feral Friday.
Thank you for joining us, J-Bo Nation. Please give all of yourselves an ovation. No, it won't be real long until next time. Oh, J-Bo Nation, there's no place we'd rather be. J-Bo Nation is the place to 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 be.